I hadn't planned on getting fought over by a vampire and a succubus. Nico's place was in full swing again. Not crisis mode this time. Just another one of his small gatherings, which meant a crowd big enough to fill a concert hall spread through polished stone halls and open balconies. I was doing what I always did at these things, staying near enough to the bar that I could refill fast and far enough from the center that no one important tripped over me. I had one drink in, good suit jacket on, clean jeans, boots that still had demon ash on them if you looked close enough. My body still remembered the way the world had bent open above the Coven's compound. The bruises were gone, but the nerves weren't. "Samuel," a voice purred near my ear. "You clean up well." Succubus. You could always tell before you turned. Voice a little too smooth, presence a little too warm, eyes a little too focused on your pulse. I turned away. She stood too close, hand resting on the bar next to mine, nails the color of fresh blood. Her dress clung to her. Her eyes wandered over my throat, then dropped to my chest, then back up. "Thanks." "Oh, Nico hides you. That's rude of him." "I'm not exactly premium decor, more of a utility piece." "Utility can be very attractive." Her fingers brushed the back of my hand. Before I could pull away, another presence slid in on my other side. Cold this time. Not Nico level, but cold enough. A vampire. Young-looking, sharp suit. Eyes with that soft, focused hunger. "Am I interrupting?" he asked. He already knew the answer. "Depends," the succubus said. "You're Nico's driver." "Among other things. He has good taste. You're wasted as cargo." "I saw him first," the succubus said. "I'm not a drink ticket, you know. I'm just a guy trying to enjoy my drink at a bar." They both ignored me. "He doesn't have a mark. That means he's unclaimed. That means he's free and bored." Her hand slid up my wrist. Nico's voice cut through everything. "Well, he may be unmarked, but he certainly isn't unclaimed. Samuel belongs to me." He appeared on my shoulder, one hand resting light on my back. To anyone else, he looked calm and amused. I saw the faint tightening at the corner of his eyes. "Walk with me." Then to the other two, "Play with a different toy. Samuel is mine." The succubus's nostrils flared. The vamp's jaw clenched. Neither of them argued with him, though. Nico steered me away, through a doorway and into one of the side halls. The moment we crossed the threshold, the pressure eased. "You collect some of the weirdest fans, you know." "I didn't invite them to compete over you. I do not intend to mediate feeding rights over a mortal employee. There are limits to my patience." "Good to know where the line is. I tried to be boring." "You failed. But relax. I did not pull you away to scold you." We moved into his study. The same shelves, same heavy desk. The same faint scent of old books and older blood. The door closed behind us on its own. "I'm listening." He went to the sideboard and poured himself a drink. Something dark in a cut glass tumbler. He poured nothing for me. He knew I still had half a glass outside. "You have been busy, Samuel. God's blood runs, demon sieges, treaties. You have driven more history across this city in the past couple of months than most anyone I've ever seen." "Yeah, my therapist is gonna love it if I ever get one. You lining up more of the same for me?" "Not tonight. I have a quieter arrangement, a side channel. It might be good for you. I'm listening. There is an establishment, Monster Market, a neutral supermarket for the supernatural. Food only, no spells, no relics. They serve vampires, wares, witches, ghouls, anyone who needs specialized sustenance without hunting. I raise my eyebrows. You're telling me there's a supernatural Costco and you're only just now mentioning it? I do not enjoy crowds, but it exists. It is respected. They keep strict neutrality. The manager reached out. He needed a delivery driver who understands discretion. And you gave him my name? Of course. You have proven that you can deliver volatile cargo through hostile territory and not open the box to satisfy your curiosity. You are resistant to panic, and you obey instructions most of the time. Flattered. What's the job? Food runs. Blood in bulk, exotic meats, ingredients. No demons, no gods, just inventory. You say that now. I say that because it is true. The risk is not zero, it never is. But compared to your last few tasks, this is a relief. You would like to pay your rent without watching the sky split, I assume. He wasn't wrong. Who runs the place? A human named Daniel. He inherited the position when the previous manager ascended or descended, depending on who you ask. He understands the rules. He needs someone who can handle the road. I told him you would visit tonight. You scheduled an interview for me without asking? You were going to say yes. Save us both the pretense. I thought about the crack in the sky over the coven. The way the van had fought gravity, the pressure in my bones. I thought about the weight of the envelope Nico had handed me after, and the way my hands had still shaken. Fine, I'll meet your grocery guy. Good. You can still enjoy the party after. Avoid the succubi and the insecure fledglings who think feeding on my driver is a status symbol. No promises, they seem very committed. He smiled with his mouth, but not his eyes. Try. Monster Market sat in a forgotten strip of commercial space on the edge of a warehouse district. From the street, it could have been any dead chain store. Old signage bolted over with a blank panel. Empty lot, cracked pavement. A few cars scattered near the entrance. Fluorescents hung behind tinted glass. I pulled my microbus into a spot near the employee entrance. The wards along the exterior of the building tingled against the back of my neck when I stepped out. Simple, solid protections. No flashy sigils. Just layers of work that said nothing here happened by accident. The main doors were open, so I went through those. The threshold caught me the way Papa Styx's bar did. Neutral ground had a certain feel to it once you'd walked enough of it. A sense that something large and invisible was watching and keeping score of things. Inside looked, on first glance, like a regular grocery store on night shift. Aisles, metal shelves, end caps full of promotional junk. A few carts parked near the entrance, overhead signs that said things like produce and frozen. Then you read the smaller print. Blood and fluids over one section, with labeled rows for species. Bottles and bags in neat lines, some with medical labels, some handwritten. Special cuts over a butcher counter where something on a hook still had claws. An aisle of dried herbs and powders that did not come from any health food store, and jars with warnings about dosage and side effects. By the door, a sign on a stand. No hunting on premises, no feeding without consent, no magic in the aisles, neutral ground, Violators are removed and banned. A vampire couple pushed a cart past by me, arguing quietly over whether to get synthetic mix or the good stuff. A ghoul in a polo shirt scanned items at a self-check line. A witch squinted at a jar of preserved something, lips moving as she read the fine print. "Can I help you?" a voice asked. The guy behind the service counter had the look of someone who had seen too many night shifts and not enough sunlight. Late 20s, dark circles, hair pulled back in a tie that had given up hours ago. Polo shirt with the Monster Meat logo. Name tag read, Daniel. "Sammy, Nico sent me." His shoulders loosened the slightest bit. "You're the driver?" "That's the rumor." "You're human." "So are you." We looked at each other for a second, both processing the relief that came with not being the only soft mortal thing in the building. "Okay, that makes this easier. Come on." He came around the counter and led me through a swinging door into the back. The smell shifted from spices and cleaning products to cold metal and meat. Industrial fridges hummed. Boxes stacked against walls bore labels in multiple alphabets. "First time here?" "Yeah, Nico doesn't strike me as a weekly shopper." "He sends people, mostly for rare orders. He likes good blood and doesn't like leaving the house for it." "That tracks." "He told me you're steady, that you don't go through people's cargo, even when it's weird." "Weird is the gig. So, what's the run?" He picked up a clipboard from a hook by the door. Paper manifest, not a tablet. Handy when tech started glitching around certain items. "Standard restock and one high-ticket transfer. You go to the supplier, pick up the order, drive it back. Everything will be pre-packed on ice. You don't open anything, you don't let anyone else open anything. You don't talk to anyone who doesn't talk business. You get it?" "Got it." "You nervous?" "Always. But this is simple, on paper. We've used this supplier before. They keep everything all right." He handed me the clipboard. I scanned the list. Blood, sorted by type and origin. Various cuts of meat with notes I didn't want to dwell on. Then, near the bottom, one line in bold marker. Prime cryptid organ, client transfer. Do not open, do not unpack. Direct handoff on delivery. Fun. What am I to this client, a ghost? Anonymous buyer. Pays very well. Uses intermediaries. It's a heart. Old and rare. Non-sapient, no souls involved. We don't touch that line, but it's still a lot of responsibility. A heart? He hesitated. That's what the notes say. Big from something that doesn't exist anymore. Used in very high-end rituals. You don't need the details. You're moving a pricey lump that needs to stay cold and intact. Fair. Anything I need to know about the route? It's local. Warehouse on the river's east side. And they know you're coming. Their guys will load your van. You bring it right back, no detours, no stops. Payment? He smiled for the first time, a quick flash. You get paid per run, plus a hazard if things go sideways. Nico negotiated on your behalf, which means I'm probably underpaying you for what you've already survived and overpaying compared to my budget. I can live with that. The back door swung again. A woman stepped through carrying a plastic tub of packaged steaks. She set it down on a prep table with a thud. Shoulders broad, hair pulled into a tight knot, apron stained. Her eyes cut to me and held. Woof. You could feel it in the way her muscles sat under her skin, coiled even when she stood still. New guy? She asked. Driver. Sammy, this is Nessie. She runs meat. Nessie, this is the human Nico recommended. She wiped her hands on a towel, looking me over. You work for Nico when you're still breathing? Impressive. Been a close vote a few times. Your staff? Yeah. Monster market, full-time, benefits and everything. Ex-Greyfang. if that matters to you. It did. I remembered the band of wolves who had torn into the road during the Eye of Icarus run. The snarls, the way they moved around the van, the way Nico had said gray fangs with that mix of annoyance and respect reserved for people too dumb to know when to quit. It doesn't matter to me, as long as you're not going to chew in the rear tires while I'm backing up. She snorted. I left that life. They didn't leave me, but that's their problem. Here, we follow the rules. No hunting on premises, no pack business in the aisles. We sell food. We don't make new bodies. Good policy. She studied me for another beat, then nodded once. Watch the roads. Gray fangs have been louder lately. If you see bikes, don't stop. Comforting, thanks. Daniel clapped his hands once. All right, you go. We'll have the bay open when you get back. Call if anything feels wrong. Define wrong. More wrong than usual. The supplier's warehouse sat near the river, in that stretch of industrial land that never quite died and never quite lived. Lights burned over a loading dock. A man in a stained jacket met me outside, checked Daniel's manifest, and weighed me in with no small talk. We backed the microbus up to the landing bay. His guys rolled out crates on dollies. White plastic, sealed, stacked with ice. They loaded them methodically into the van, filling the back in neat rows. Then they brought out the chest. Steel-reinforced corners, extra latches, faint ward marks carved along the edges. Frost clung to the surface. The men moved it with more care than the rest. That the special? Market meat order. Goes where the manifest says. Don't touch the seals. Not my business. He grunted, stepped back, and watched until I closed the rear doors. The drive back started quiet. Late night traffic, some trucks. City lights smearing on the windshield. The hum of the engine calm. In the rear view, I saw stacked white crates and the dark rectangles with a chest between them. 10 minutes in, I checked the mirrors again. Headlights behind me. One set, then another, spread out at first, but now closer. Motorcycles. They stayed just at that comfortable tailing distance, never passing, never dropping away. Anytime I turned, they turned. Anytime I slowed for a light, they hung back just enough to look casual. I kept my eyes forward and pretended not to notice until the third intersection. Okay, I said to no one. Either I have fans or somebody sniffed the cryptid sale. I took no detours, no stops, straight back on the route Daniel had given me. The bike stayed behind me until I turned into the lot for Monster Market. Then they drifted across the street and settled into a loose cluster near a dark stretch of sidewalk, engines idling. Gray fangs, had to be. No colors visible from here, but the posture was familiar. The employee entrance for the loading bay sat around the side. I pulled through, headlights catching the big roll-up door. Daniel had it half open already. I eased the bus under the steel teeth and into the bay. The moment my back bumper cleared the threshold, the door started closing behind me. Daniel stood by the wall controls, headset hanging around his neck, eyes on the monitor feed. You saw them? I asked, killing the engine. Bikes loitering across the street? Yeah, guess I didn't invite. Gray fangs? Nessie's voice came from the side. She stepped out from behind a stack of crates, apron on, eyes narrow. Probably. I've had run-ins with them before. The door rolled down to the last foot. Then something hit it from the outside. The impact boomed through the bay. Metal dented inward, hard enough that the lower panel flexed. The wards along the frame flared white-green, then dropped to a dim glow. A second hit crashed into the door before the first echo faded. Steel bowed. The whole wall shook. Alarm snapped on, red strobes pulsing. A siren wound up overhead. Daniel stared up at the warped door, jaw tight. Okay, so much for a quiet grocery run. Nessie's nostrils flared, her pupils narrowed. They're not here to browse. I glanced back at the van, at the crates, at the dark, heavy shape of the chest buried in ice. The easy job had just ended. Daniel moved fast. He jumped to the wall panel and slammed his palm against a red pad. The siren cut off mid-screech. Overhead, the main lights went down a few levels and an amber wash took over. A recorded voice rolled through the bay and into the store. Lockdown engaged. Please remain calm and follow staff instructions. This is a neutral ground security event. The heavy interior door to the back room thunked shut on its own. Somewhere out in the main aisles, I heard carts stop and someone swear. The thing outside hit the garage door again. Metal shrieked. The wards flared bright, held, then settled into a steady glow along the frame. Tell me that's not normal. We have drills. We don't usually have bikers ramming the door 10 seconds after you show up. That's the gray fangs, Nessie said. Her teeth were a little longer now. Fantastic. What did I bring him? Daniel grabbed the manifest and stalked to the back of the microbus. I followed. Nessie stayed near the door, head tilted, listening to whatever was happening beyond the metal. We popped the rear doors. Cold air rolled out, carrying the smell of blood, ice, and something thick. Crates lined the cargo bed. Daniel ran his finger down the manifest. Standard stock. Nothing that justifies a except this. Prime cryptid organ, client transfer, do not open, do not unpack. He looked at me. I looked at the one crate that didn't match the others. The steel-reinforced corners, extra latches, frost clinging to the edges. The thing had its own presence. Nessie stepped closer. Her nostrils flared. Her eyes went yellow around the edges. That's it. Whatever is in there, that's what they're hunting. The garage door boomed again. Dust shook loose from the seams in the ceiling. On the third hit, a hairline crack appeared in the corner of one of the frames. The wards around it flared and stitched to close. I'm getting sick of that sound already. Then handle the cause, a new voice said. We turned. A man stood in the doorway that led from the back room into the bay. Tall, lean, a suit that fit too well to be off the rack. Pale skin with no pore texture, hair cut neat and eyes calm, flat, and dark. Victor. I'd seen him once before at one of Nico's things. He was one of those old vampires who moved through rooms as if everything had already been decided and he was just walking through the results. Tonight he had a shopping cart in front of him, a few racks of sealed blood bags at the bottom, 2 opaque containers with private labels stacked near the handle. Busy night? His gaze slid from Daniel to me to Nessie, then to the reinforced chest. Interesting inventory. We're closed, Daniel said on reflex. Your doors are closed, but your market is very open to problems. Gray fangs outside? So it seems, Nessie muttered. They tailed me from the supplier, sat across the street until I rolled in. They want that, and they are not here to negotiate. Another hit rattled the door. The voice that followed was loud enough to push through steel. Nessie! She went still. Nessie Gray, the voice called. Male, roughened by shouting and years of junk and rage. We know you're in there. We know what they're hiding. They've got a cryptid heart on ice. You open that door and hand it over, and this ends quick, Nessie. Nessie's hands curled into fists. Talkative neighbors, I said quietly. Shut up a second, she breathed. The voice outside went on. You hear me, girl? They got power stuck in a box. Power that belongs to the packs. They're storing it to sell to leeches and witches. You're gonna help them with that? They're trying to pull you. They know you work here. No, they're trying to pull themselves out of the ditch they dug. That heart doesn't belong to anybody. Daniel blew out a breath. Ugh, cryptid heart, fantastic. You knew what was inside that crate? I knew the label. Our contact said it was an organ from a dead cryptid. Old, dangerous when fresh, rare and stable when treated. No intelligence, no soul. The thing died out before anyone alive here was born, except maybe Victor. Anonymous buyer, high price, promises to keep it away from open war. That's how this gig works. We don't trade and live and think in things. The voice outside started again. Monster Market. We know you hear us. This is pack business. You give us the heart and we walk. You keep it, and we come through that door and take it. And we drag that driver out for trying to sneak it under us. Creative pitch. I give him 0 stars. Victor's eyes stayed on the chest. Cryptid. There were stories when I was newly turned, thousands of years ago. Things that were old even then. Predators that made even dragons nervous. Their hearts could be used for all kinds of religious and magical rites. It amplifies everything. There is power in these. There can't be but a few handfuls left. So the Grey Fangs want a power snack. They want leverage. You feed that heart or pieces of it to a strong enough alpha, and they pull other packs under them fast. Or they chop it up and sell pieces to anyone desperate enough. Either way, they climb out of the gutter by standing on the necks of everyone else. The Grey Fangs will use it for their unquenchable power. Outside, the wolves hit the door again. The ward screamed, but still held. Daniel rubbed the bridge of his nose. The buyer told us the heart was for containment rituals. To strengthen a warded side out of town, he wouldn't reveal himself, but he paid up front in a way that checked out. I did the math. A dead beast, no mind, no soul, and one rich idiot throwing money to keep something quiet in his corner of the world, so I let it through. Rich idiot might not be wrong. There are uses for such things beyond chewing and howling. But the Grey Fangs do not care about nuance. They see meat and think only of teeth. As Victor said this, he picked up one of his blood bags, opened it up with one of his sharp nails, and sucked the blood down. You can feel it. Depth. Age. This is not some normal monster piece. Your buyer knew what he was ordering. You tempted? I asked him. I know better. I've survived this long for a while, boy. The voice outside shifted tone, less taunting, more threat. This is your last chance, Market. Hand the heart out. Put the driver just outside the door. We take him in the crate and we leave. You keep hiding, and what happens next is on you. I looked at Daniel. He's lying. I know. We let them drag a contracted shipment and my driver out of a neutral store, we might as well shut down. No one will trust us again. We'll get to that in a second. Right now, I need to know if we're staring at something that will eat the building from the inside if it cracks. The chest is solid, the wards are good. It isn't pushing. It's not a cursed thing, it's a resource. A nasty one, but a resource. The danger is outside. Victor nodded once. She is right. That heart is dead and preserved. The power in it leaks into the air, but it has no will. The wolves do, and they are the problem. So, we've got an ethically gray organ in a box, an anonymous buyer waiting, and a gang of psychos at the door who just want to use it to turn this whole city into their personal hunting lodge. Am I missing anything?" "That's about right," Victor said. Daniel nodded once. Fear sat in his shoulders, but something harder settled over it. "All right, then we decide what Monster Market really is." The chest sat in the center of the bay, silent and heavy. The door shuddered again under another hit. The wards flared, then steadied. Everyone in that room understood it then. This was no longer just a grocery run. This was a fight over what stayed neutral and what got eaten. We don't surrender staff, we don't surrender goods under contract. We hold. If they want to claim this place, they have to do it over our bodies. "Good," Victor said. "I like my Monster Market." The store speakers crackled. Daniel spoke over them. "Attention all staff and customers, this is Daniel. We have a hostile pack outside the building and lockdown is in effect. This ain't a drill." Somewhere out in the main aisles, someone swore loud enough that we heard it through the walls. "Non-combatants, please move to reinforced areas. The freezers have secondary wards. The storerooms between aisles 2 and 3 are the safest. If you don't know where to go, find an employee and ask. Anyone willing and able to help defend the market, report to central aisles in the main floor. We will not be handing anybody over." He let go of the button. "That sounded pretty good. Fake it until you don't die. We need bodies on the floor and eyes on the wards. Go." Nessie pushed through the inner door to the store. Victor followed, cart rolling ahead of him until he parked it against the wall and left it. I jogged behind them into the main aisle of Monster Market under emergency light. The place looked different now. Most of the ambient chatter had gone dead. Customers peeked out from around displays. A witch in denim jacket cracked her knuckles, muttering under her breath as spell marks crawled along the backs of her hands. A ghoul clerk reached under a checkout lane and pulled out a bat with engraved sigils burnt into the wood. A squat demon in a stained apron rolled his eyes, handed off his broom to another worker, and stopped toward the front, grumbling about never getting a quiet shift. Nessie took over without asking. "You with the bat. Front aisle by the blood section," she said to the ghoul. "If anything gets that far, they can't reach the coolers. Witches, I want you back from the front line working through cover. We don't need friendly fire." 2 witches moved and nodded into flanking positions near the ends of the aisle, behind stacks of canned goods. "Sammy, you know how to move in a fight?" "Mostly away from swinging claws." "Good enough. Help block corridors. Keep people moving." Victor had drifted near the front of the store. He loosened his tie and rolled his shoulders, quiet and composed. The next hit on the building didn't come from the loading bay. It came from the left side of the structure near aisle 8. A deep hammering force struck the wall twice, then a third time. Wards flared through the drywall in a pattern like cracking glass. The air tasted sharp and metallic. Nessie looked up. "Side entrance, they found a thinner spot." A 4th hit landed. A spider web of red light traced itself along the ceiling. "Everyone off of 8, now!" Aisle 8 emptied fast. 2 seconds later, a section of the side wall bulged inward. There was a tearing sound as something in the ward pattern gave. Plaster split. A hand with too much fur and 2 long claws punched through the wall and tore downward. "That's our breach. Let's go," Nessie said. She charged towards the aisle. I grabbed a rolling cart full of bulk rice bags and pushed it in the same direction. Victor moved, not quite a blur, but faster than any human. The wall gave in a rough circle. 3 wolves forced their way in through the broken section, muzzles full of teeth, eyes glowing. The one in the lead stopped when he saw Nessie. Recognition flared. "Well, they do keep you like a pet." "Hello, Rake. Still compensating with the vest, I see." "Run away from home and get a job in a grocery store. You always did, eh, my?" The 2 behind him chuckled. One of them sniffed the air, head tipping toward the back of the store. "Art's here. Close. I can smell it." It's a pack, right, Nessie? You know it's ours.
It's not yours. You didn't kill it. You didn't track it. You just heard there was meat with magic in it and decided it belonged to you.
Better with us than in some freezer for leeches and spell flingers. You gonna stand between us and it? For them?
She didn't answer with words. She answered by leaping at his throat. They hit the floor hard. Claws tore at flesh. Teeth snapped. He was bigger than she was, older, more scarred. But she moved quicker. The two other wolves stepped to go around them, aiming down the aisle toward the back. I shoved the cart of rice sideways into their path and kicked the lock on the wheels. One of them slammed into it chest first and stumbled. The others vaulted, snarling. I yanked the fire extinguisher off the wall, popped the pin, and blasted the landing wolf full in the face. The spray thundered out in a thick cloud. He howled, blinded, swiping at nothing. The ghoul clerk with the bat stepped in from the side and swung for the blinded wolf's knee. The crack of impact was loud and ugly. The wolf went down roaring. The second wolf tried to wrench the cart aside. Victor appeared behind him, and one pale hand grabbed the back of the wolf's neck. The other wrapped around his jaw. A quick twist. There was a snap. The wolf's body sagged. Victor let it drop and stepped back before the falling weight pulled him off balance. He didn't speak. He moved to the next threat. Rake and Nessie rolled, trading control. He slammed her against the shelf. Cans rattled and fell. She drove her knee into his ribs once, twice, until something gave. He punched her across the jaw and blood flew. She shook it off and bit into his shoulder, tearing flesh away.
Traitor!
He tried to reach for the gap in the wall. She pinned his arm and twisted it until the joint popped. He howled. She dropped him into the floor, slammed his head once, twice, and then he stopped moving. Breathing hard, she pushed off him and looked up, checking the aisle. The blinded wolf was still swinging. I hit him again with the extinguisher blast. The ghoul brought the bat down on his head and he dropped. In the wall, the hole pulsed with red light. The wards crawled over the ragged edge of drywall, fusing cracks, slow but steady.
That's 3. They'll send more. These were expendable, Victor said.
He wiped a fleck of blood from his cuff with a slight frown.
The store's still standing. Anyone hurt bad?
Bruised. Nothing broken that won't fixed.
Good. How about the wards?
Stressed. Not shattered. They found a soft spot and pushed. Now they know they can tear the skin if they work hard enough. Test run. Check the defenses to see how we react.
Exactly.
The first blood had been drawn inside Monster Market. It wasn't enough to end anything, but it was enough to prove that the market would swing back. The Gray Fangs had tested a wall and found it painful. The next hit would be heavier. Whew, you could feel it in your teeth. The whole building jumped. The shelves rattled. A few glass bottles gave up and shattered. The wards along the ceiling flared bright red for a breath, then sank to a dull, angry glow.
They're ramping up.
Monster Market looked worse now. Dry goods aisle was half blocked with broken product. One freezer door was cracked. Blood had dried in streaks where we dragged one of the earlier wolves out of the way. Daniel stood at the front end of the store between the registers and the blood aisle. His headset was crooked, shirt untouched, clipboard gone somewhere. He was trying to look in 3 directions at once. The next blow hit the front doors. Not a ram this time, but a focused push of blood and rage. The glass didn't shatter. It warped. The metal frames bent inward. Wards crawled over the surface, trying to hold it together.
They've got a caster out there, the Denim Witch said. They're smearing blood over the wards to find the gaps.
Can you strengthen it? Daniel asked her.
For a while. I'm not a coven, I'm one person. They've got a lot of blood to burn.
The wolves hit again. This time, one section of the glass spiderwebbed. The wards flashed in a wild pattern and then tore. Not all the way, just enough that something could push through. A clawed hand punched through the crack, then a shoulder, and a head forced itself between the failing projections, fur bristling, muzzle pulled back in a snarl.
Front, we've got a breach, I yelled.
The hand vanished, then came harder again. The gap widened. One gray fang forced himself through the half-veil barrier. Ward scored burning lines down his skin, but he pushed and pushed until he was inside. Smoke rose from the charred fur along his back. His eyes burned with the kind of rage that didn't care about pain. He landed in the front end of the store near the registers. For half a second, he took in the scene. Staff, customers, Daniel. He went for Daniel. "Move!" I shouted. Daniel froze. You could see the moment his brain tried to catch up to his body and failed. Henry didn't freeze. He stepped between Daniel and the charging wolf without thinking about it. 1 second he was at Daniel's shoulder, and the next he was braced in front of him, arms up as if it would do anything against claws as long as my fingers. It didn't. The wolf hit him full on. Claws tore through shirt and skin. Henry's breath left him in a grunt that cut off in the middle. The wolf's jaws snapped once at his throat. Blood sprayed across the register counter. Daniel screamed his name. The wolf dropped Henry aside like trash and reached for Daniel again, eyes locked on him. He didn't reach far. Victor moved. One moment he was down the aisle, hands empty. The next he was in front of the wolf. No blur, no flash. Just a step that closed far too much distance in one smooth line. The wolf swiped at him. Victor slipped past the claws, caught the wolf's wrist in one hand and his chest in the other. His fingers punched in. There was a wet crunch, then another. Victor's hand came back holding something red and heavy that pulsed once and then sagged. The wolf stumbled, eyes wide, mouth working, soundless. His legs gave out. He hit the floor in a heap. Victor dropped the heart onto the tile. It rolled once and came to rest in a smear of blood. The whole front end of the store went quiet except for the howl outside and the ragged sound of Daniel trying to breathe. And Henry lay on his back, eyes open and clouding. His shirt was a mess of red. There was a hole where his throat should have been, but a throat and not an open ruin. His hands twitched once, then flattened. Daniel dropped to his knees beside him. Henry, no, stay with me. Come on, man." The witch knelt on Henry's other side. "There's nothing. He's gone." Daniel's hands hovered uselessly. Blood soaked into his pants. He stared down at Henry's face as if he could will his clerk to sit up and complain about the mess. Nothing moved. Outside, the wolves slammed the door again. The cracked section of glass shivered. Wards tried to knit, but less eagerly now. They had lost something when that one wolf forced his way in. Nessie came up behind us, breathing hard. She looked at the corpse on the floor, then at Daniel, then at Victor and the torn open wolf. "This isn't going to stop. Not while they still think they can get inside and feast." Daniel didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on Henry's face. "He was a kid. He worked here 2 nights a week. He used to bring in donuts from the human bakery down the street and complain that no one appreciated them enough. He even kept a stash of lollipops under the counter for freaked-out customers." "I know." Nessie's jaw tightened. "They're not going to stop," Victor said. "Even if we push them back again, they'll regroup. They'll come with more blood and more bodies." "Enough. We're not a vault, we're a market. We close deals. We don't hoard weapons until some pack decides they get to roll dice with our lives." "We have to burn it. We have to destroy the heart and send it back to wherever it came from. We deny the Grey Fangs the power they so desperately want." "Your buyer isn't going to like that, Daniel." "I don't care about the buyer, man. This is our lives here. Henry just died. Others could too." "All right. Nessie, Victor, Sammy, back to the bay with me. We've got a heart to kill." We left Henry on the floor and walked. Nobody said a word on the way back. The chest waited in the loading bay. Frost clung to the metal. The wards along its edges pulsed slow and steady. Daniel stopped in front of it. His hands were still red where he grabbed Henry. "That thing isn't worth one of mine. I don't care who paid. I don't care what they promised.
We're killing it.
Nessie nodded once.
Good.
The denim jacket witch and an older witch came in through the inner doors. The older one's apron was streaked with ash and chalk.
You mean it? You're ready to wipe the heart?
Yes.
Can you do it without blowing a hole in my roof? Not with just fire. It's too loaded. Burn it wrong, and we can release whatever power is stuck in there.
We're short on options. What does gone look like?
We smother the power while we burn it.
Her gaze went to Victor.
We drown it in something even more ancient. Something to contain the power.
Victor watched her.
You want my blood? Yes, we need it. Blood magic is incredibly powerful.
Any risk to me?
Minor sting. Unless you jump into the fire, you'll be fine.
He rolled his sleeves back. Then take what you need. This market makes my life easier. I prefer it unbroken. She cut his wrist quick, caught what came out, and smeared it onto her palm. The blood darkened as it hit air, thicker than it should have been. She flicked it out in drops around an empty section of floor. Each drop hit and sank, leaving a black point that pulsed.
Disposal bay, the big burner,
she said to Daniel. He led us through another door into a smaller room, steel hatch on one wall, heavy furnace on the other. It smelled of old smoke and cleaning chemicals.
This is where we get rid of the stuff that can't go in normal trash. You're about to give it the worst meal it's ever had.
The older witch traced a circle around the center of the floor. Where her finger passed, faint blue lines appeared in the concrete and closed into a ring. The denim witch added chalk marks between the blood points, quick and practiced.
Bring the chest.
Nessie and I dragged it in on a cart. It was even heavier now that we knew it was inside.
Do not touch it bare. Use gloves.
Nessie grabbed a pair from a hook, flexed her fingers into them, and undid the latches. She muttered under her breath as she cracked the ward line on the lid, careful and focused. Cold rolled out when she lifted it. Not regular freezer chill, but something deeper and older.
Pick it up. Straight into the fire. No speeches, no games, and then we end it.
Nessie slid her gloved hand under the heart and lifted. Her arms trembled, but she held it. One witch recited the incantation with Victor's blood, and the other witch opened the incinerator door. Heat pushed out. The witch pressed her bloody hand to a control rune and murmured 3 sharp words. The flame inside flared white. She shoved the heart into the furnace. It hit the grate and stuck. The older witch slammed the door, and the circle on the floor flared. The furnace roared higher, and something in the air pulled tight and then snapped. The smell that seeped through the seals was thick and foul. A burned animal stench that carried the hint of something heavier, then faded as the fire did its work. Outside, the wolves howled. The pitch changed halfway through, confusion and anger cutting into the sound. The witch's chanting slowed. The lines on the floor dimmed.
It's breaking apart. Give it another minute.
We stood there and listened to the fire. When the glow in the circle finally went out, the older witch stepped back, breathing hard.
It's done. What's left in there is waste. No more heart and no more power.
I let out a breath. Nessie peeled off the gloves and tossed them into a bin. Daniel looked at the furnace door.
Okay, now we tell the dogs outside the buffet is closed.
A howl went up, sharper than before. It rose, cracked, and turned into a steady string of curses that didn't need words to carry any meaning.
Yeah, buffet's gone.
They hit the front doors again. The glass shrieked. Nessie rolled her shoulders. We headed back to the main floor. The front of Monster Market looked worse now. The big entry doors were spiderwebbed, bowed inward. Cracks traced through the plaster around the frames. Makeshift barricades of carts and toppled displays blocked direct paths. Staff and customers stood behind them. Witch hands glowed faintly. The ghoul clerk held his bat low. The demon in the apron gripped a cleaver that could probably take a hand off a giant.
Monster Market, you burned it. You burned our claim. You think that saves you?
No one answered.
You're dead. All of you. The clerk, the little trader wolf, the leeches who shop here. You're all on our list now. Enjoy waiting for us.
He hit the doors again with something heavy, and the wards blazed. Then the pounding stopped. The howls faded. We heard engines rev. Tires crunched on broken glass. One by one, the bike sounds pulled away from the building and rolled off into the distance. The last engine cut off somewhere far down the street. Daniel exhaled hard. All right. Everyone stand down. Stay cautious, but stand down. They're gone for now. He hit the pedal for the lockdown. The recorded voice came back on, this time calmer. Lockdown disengaging. Please remain inside until staff direct you to exits. Thank you for your cooperation. The wards around the interior doors relaxed. The lights in the aisles brightened back to their normal cold wash. People shifted. Groans, low laughs, little curses. Cleanup started. People fetched mops, rags, patch kits for wards. The two witches moved along the walls, mending cracks in the spellwork. The ghoul and demon dragged wolf bodies towards the back to deal with later. I helped pull broken shelves upright and topple displays. It felt good to move. After a while, Daniel came over, envelope in hand. He looked older than he had at the start of the night. This is your pay, plus hazard. It ain't enough, but it's what I can do without bankrupting us. I took it. The weight felt good. If you want more runs with us, you've got a route whenever you need work. Grocery runs that bite back. I'll think about it. I left Monster Market through the side hatch they were using while someone figured out how to fix the front. The parking lot was empty. The night air felt good outside. My van sat where I left it. I slid into the driver's seat, set the envelope on the passenger side, and rested my hands on the wheel for a moment. This was supposed to be the easy job. Just groceries. Pick up boxes, drop them off, and enjoy the quiet. Instead, I watched a kid die, helped burn an ancient heart so no one could weaponize it, and stood inside a supermarket while a werewolf gang tried to tear it open. Still better than a demon in the sky. I started the engine. The van rumbled to life. There would be more calls. Nico would need something. The Coven would need something. Now Monster Market would too. The night shift had its routes. And I'll keep getting hired to drive them.